I'm not a title person, but I realize when you're at the helm, there's a sense of responsibility that you have for others. And you have to want to really step into that and understand the sacrifices you have to make when you're in those roles, and who is looking at you for your commitment that you have. So like, I'm an executive director of Lincoln Park, but the whole community looks at me. Like I'm the one, or Anthony, I'm like, we don't have a magic wand, but that's what happens. It's the social capital that you build up in your community, but it's a lot of work, so you have to believe in, don't mind getting dirty, and also knowing that it's rewarding because you're changing people's lives. Mm.
How you been? Long time no see.
Yeah, I've been fine. It's been, so I guess the year has gone by. We went to a year of COVID. So we came out of the 14th annual Lincoln Park Music Festival in 2019. It was great. I enjoyed it. From going to Jamaica with
Little Ray.
Little Ray, I developed a better relationship with Timmy, and that's how I got Timmy to play at the festival.
Nice.
So that's how that happened. So we talked, and I didn't quite ask him at that time about the festival. He happens to get up early, and I get up early. I get up very early. So by 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, I can't lay around. I get out of my room. He was the only one up. So every time at breakfast, he had this table, I had my table, and we're up, and he saw our patterns and stuff. And then, what's his name? Mark Francis. We developed a relationship with Mark Francis. We were talking and everything. And he said, you should have lunch with Timmy and let him know more what you're doing. So I met him for lunch in New York when we got back and told him what we were doing. And he said, well, I'm not really interested in doing that and stuff. I said, I understand. I said, but, let me tell you who we are at Lincoln Park. We're more than a festival, we're a movement. And I broke down to him the community economic development, the job creations and the things that we're doing to really build out the community. And he said, oh my God, that's some good stuff. And I'm talking about the content that we had over the years, and left it there. I told him, we would love for you to be part of the festival, but it's okay, but I just wanted to let you know that whatever you hear about the festival, this is who we are as Lincoln Park. So after I went through that process with him and we talked about everything, I think I waited he wanted to come on a tour. He said, I need to come and see what you're talking about, because his sister lives in South Orange or Maplewood, and his brother-in-law. And so we wanted to come on a tour. We tried to get the tour. For some reason, based upon scheduling, he couldn't really get the tour together. But then I circled back to him. I said, we're getting ready to make a decision about our program. And I always base my program around headliners. Would you consider being part of the 14th annual Lincoln Park Music Festival? I told him who I already booked and everything. And he said, he waited, and I think next day or so he told me yes. But what happened, I have a format. So it's either 4 or 5 DJs and have showcases in between. He told me that he would do it, but 2.5 hours wasn't enough time for him to play. He told me that that he loves Rochelle. He loves all the, that vocalists are important, but he wants to have an uninterrupted set. So would I consider shifting my program a little bit? Of course. So I thought about it. So I started at 12. I started at 11:30, but or 11 o'clock to be pre-festival, people playing, because people were already there anyway. And we had made the decision beforehand, but people were already there. And I just moved my whole program up, which would normally be the headliner of the night. Rochelle was the last artist that went on around 4:30. The mayor, anybody else that had to come on, they did what they had to do. And then from 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock for 5 hours straight, he just played music. And no one has ever done that or seen that. So whoever saw that, some were happy, some weren't. It's like, because they expected Timmy to be what they knew him from, the old Shelter, but he's evolved as a human being. He's evolved in the space of music. And so, not that he doesn't like classics, he'll play classics, but he wanted people to evolve with him. But he played some nice music. And you were literally 5 hours at a club. And people were just really just enjoying it. They had straight, uninterrupted music. Now, when we come back from the pandemic, I'm going to use that model because it works. So you can get everything you have to do from local, regional, and all the folks in. But when you come with your headliner, give people an experience that they won't forget. And that's what I learned that from doing that with him. And that was like a crescendo for then not knowing that COVID was going to happen. So to say that I had my last performance with Timmy on stage was kind of cool. You know, and Rochelle Fleming and a host of others. It was a really good show. So, so what happened is last year, after the pandemic happened and everyone was rushing to do virtual, you know, we wanted to do it, but it was, I felt challenged and there were so many hiccups that was happening as people were onboarding to this new way of presenting our culture and our music. So, and also I was not comfortable. I wasn't going to cancel, but I was not comfortable doing a 15th anniversary virtually. I felt that we had put too much sweat equity in it to do that. So we decided to do 14.2. Lincoln Park Music Festival 14.2 Global Soul. And the reason we were able to make it Global Soul is because we're engaged with the internet and virtually, I can have artists from all over the world performing on my platform. We partnered with Vimeo. And because after seeing all the different platforms and me learning the technology, I had to, we worked as a nonprofit, we're able to get pro bono services. So I had pro bono legal and they had some lawyers work with us who happened to be from Audible, dealing with intellectual property rights because it was just too much going on. And I needed to really safeguard the organization and myself. And I didn't want to be shut down all the time. So we had to simplify our programs and be as authentic as possible. So I couldn't go like, you know, I like things to be very large and big, but I had to really synthesize it to being a manageable thing that was authentic, that I had the rights to do, and that my music wasn't going to be dropped down. So Audible worked with us with all around intellectual property rights. So partnered with Vimeo. And the reason we wanted Vimeo, because Vimeo had grew into a platform that the clarity and the crispness of what you were doing was great. The other thing that I invested in was a producer. So even though we produce, but I had someone in the background on a whole different Mac doing the lower thirds and all of those different things because a friend of ours who produces with BET, he'll be mad if I forget his name, the name of his company, but it'll come to me. But we brought him on. It was worth the investment because what happened is that they knew how to edit very well. They knew how to do the lower thirds, changing. So we had Lou Gorbea in Puerto Rico, and we had him set up and everything, but we're able to slice in pictures. I know that he is, you know, like myself, you know, a practitioner of Yoruba religion. And so it was great to be able to slice different things in. It was really hot. I saw it done with Ian Friday also when he did some kind of program. And I was like, he's in the Sahara or someplace, you know, it was like, so you have to realize that really when you do online programming, you're producing a television show. So you have to think of it from a real production, the editing and all those things. And so those are the things that we had to work on. So we successfully did it. And also the things that had been incubating in our mind, because we've always wanted to go to 2 weeks. Always wanted to have 2 weekends. We envision, and it will happen, the city is on board, it just takes a lot of work. And now that COVID has happened, but as we come out of it, we want our own Newark Coachella. So having a Newark Coachella and going small vignettes and places, and it's about music. So our genres are house, hip hop, gospel, R&B, and jazz, right? House, hip hop, R&B, and jazz, right? So, but everything in between that, that's part of the diaspora, you're able to cover. So when you have, that means we're looking at it from the place of it having an economic impact on our city. So we're this Black and brown city, and now when you bring the dollars are being retained here, people are going to clubs, they're going to bars, and you have all these different things. And what's also important for us is the humanities component of it, having conversations like they do at the Winter Music Conference. It's important to get the artists off the stage and having a conversation because they have real stories of things that's happened in the business of music. So we partnered with Adam Cruz. Yes, Adam Cruz. I get him, sometimes I say Rios, but it's Adam Cruz. We're partnered with Adam, my buddy Adam, and he has mixtape sessions, but I've always wanted to talk about the business of music. And so for 2 years, this was the second year, we had a conference, and just to talk about the music industry, people pivoting into the COVID experience and what would be like post-COVID, the creative economy and all those things. So we want the music festival. Our music festival was created not because I just wanted to do a music festival, because we're a nonprofit organization. I would call Lincoln Park a 1.0, housing development, pathways out of poverty with job training. For us, it was in the space of sustainable jobs around the green space. We had a food desert down there, so we were looking at ways to create farm to table. And all of this is done under the umbrella of creative placemaking or place-based development. And so the music festival came because we were early on, we were a Smithsonian affiliate, and we were earmarked to build the Museum of African American Music in Newark. It shifted because of the 2008 market crash. It kind of devastated us as a community development corporation. And so we had to table that while we were actually trying to repair ourselves. And so what people saw, and what was our, our flagship program was the Lincoln Park Music Festival. But behind that, with all of our other programs, I guess like the three-legged stool, we were standing on one leg. We were trying to do a lot of risk mitigating from the financial crisis with our housing portfolio and all the things that we were doing. But we wanted to, we wanted to still present a face of we're alive, we're here, we're doing. So arts and culture and music became our vehicle as still keeping our name alive and things we're doing. And then we started programming in this space to actually start teasing up our other projects, whether it was health and wellness, or whether it was around dealing with small businesses and helping them to build up to scale, dealing with our seniors, our intergenerational population, dealing with just all different things that really tap into the ecosystem in our communities. And so our programming is in front of the stage, front of the house, is always about when people come, it's experiential, and whether it's a taste of Newark or the food or the clothing, all those different things. And so we created the festival because the park, no one was coming to Lincoln Park, no one was coming to Newark. You know, our heyday of the Zaz Bar and all the amazing clubs and DJs who are from here, something happened that it was everything flatlined for a while. And I think it flatlined also with the onset of the pandemic of AIDS, that pandemic. I think they took a lot of the creatives out here and just the clubs, the energy change, and also the onboarding of hip hop. A new culture was rising out as the house music culture, for many reasons, was kind of folding out. So the festival, which was my festival, our festival, was created, and I was inspired by Soul Summitt. And I love, they've been doing, mine was 15 years old last year, theirs was 18 or 19 years old. They were doing it before. I I used to hang in Fort Greene all the time when I used to go to Two Steps Down and Knapp's and all those places to get my hair cut. And so I enjoyed the authentic feeling of Soul Summitt. It's different now for me because it's become very popular. But when I was going, it was a lot of people, but it wasn't a lot of people like this. And also was going was every weekend. So it was almost, it had 8 Soul Summits in the summers before noise pollution became a problem in Brooklyn, you know, and it was becoming gentrified. But it was fun because I could bring a dish, everybody pull out their tables, everybody have their dish, their food. It was like a family picnic and a way of getting together. And that's what I love about music and these festivals. It's a gathering. It's a way for people to come together. No matter what they're going through, music has a way of healing and spiritually lifting people up. And that's part of our goal. So we created it as a vehicle, a marketing tool as we were building out this community. And it's really become our flagship. People know Lincoln Park for Lincoln Park Music Festival. They're knowing us now more around all of our other projects because we built over 100 units of housing, affordable housing, condos. We've done job training with about almost 100 folks with solar panel installation, geothermal, and weatherization. The geothermal, if you not familiar, that's when for your heating and electricity, you tap into the water tables, and it's a water coming from the water tables below your home, and they tap into it. So you have a furnace that's ran by water. Electricity, you need electricity to turn it on, but it runs that way, but it reduces the cost of your electric bill and all those things. So we're doing geothermal. So I would say Lincoln Park 1.0, we built 100 units of housing, some affordable, and we're all LEED certified. We're considered a green community. And also we've done the job training with Pathways Out of Poverty, economic empowerment. We've done healthy living, healthy lifestyles with the farms. And we had our own CSA, which is community support agriculture when you build, but we couldn't build below, we couldn't plant below in the ground because most of urban cities land are considered brownfields because when houses are torn down and they bury their oil tanks and stuff, take everything and just flatten it out, the soil is contaminated and you have to do a lot of remediation. So we just built above in pots and stuff, you know, these certain kind of pots you build in and did hydroponics at a hoop house where we did our lettuce and everything. And once a week, people will come and buy a share and everything. So that worked out very well for a while. So we've in Lincoln Park 1.0, we tried to be everything that we could be for the community because the community needed so much. And as I said, we was hit in 2008 with the market crash that really devastated. We really should have closed down, but we did some mission drifting and kept pushing on. And in 2014, when my executive director founding left to go for another opportunity, I was onboarded from my role as Director of Operations and Community Affairs to becoming the ED. And so those 5 years were challenging because we still were coming out of the market crisis of 2008. So we were very risk adverse and we had to work through that and build the trust up again. So in the 5 years, we've been able to do a lot of work to mitigate that. And now, like a phoenix rising out the ashes, we're like really coming into a different space. And it's really good. It's Lincoln Park 2.0. And our 3 pillars, just for you to know, one is arts and culture. And under arts and culture, we're reimagining, redoing the park over, looking at artist housing. We think it's important for artists to have secure, affordable housing. And then we're dealing with the creative economy. And the creative economy for us is about pathways of empowerment, but looking at how do you help to build small businesses and bring them to scale, giving them tools and techniques. And we're doing that with also the objective of what we call cluster-based economic development. And with cluster-based economic development, our goal is to bring creatives working and living in Lincoln Park so it becomes this place where they all are feeding off of each other. Creatives are working, you do this, I do this, but also they're making money, and people know, come to Lincoln Park for that. With a particular lens on Black and Brown people. And so the pandemic, and the third is community organizing or community engagement, in which we're really the fulcrum for redevelopment. We have a lot of social capital, and we work in tandem with developers when they come into our community to develop. And so we're their partner on the ground of what was really happening. And so when the pandemic happened, we had just finished a 10-year neighborhood plan, and it was finished for 2019, December, boom, the pandemic came. But the pandemic turned out, and especially with all the awful social justice things that happened last year, I was talking to one of my older relatives. They were like, they thought they'd never see this again, but it felt like we had reverted back to the 60s. But what it did was, for me, it was a renewed vision and vigilance of, speaking your truth, understanding your value that you have as a person, and also who we are as an organization. Yeah, we may be resource deprived, but we are rich in so many other things, and we have the special thing that everybody's trying to get. So we can find a right marriage with those who have resources to help, to support us to continue what we're doing. That's what we've been working on. So back around the festival, the arts and cultural initiatives, we're using arts and culture, or just culture and arts, to really solve problems in the community. We have an alley in our community that is just full of ill-gotten gain. And I'm using that word, just you didn't understand. It could be a plethora of things that's happening there, but we're getting ready to turn it around. And it will be an arts alley with murals and things of that sort down there. So repurposing a place that's creating havoc in a community and making it a destination that the community can enjoy. So, but that's because you can do that with arts and culture. You could do that with music. You could do that with those things. So we're just using the medium of music and arts and culture as a way to heal our community, fix that cracked ecosystem. So this year we will have arts and cultural initiatives, but it won't be the 15th annual Lincoln Park Music Festival. It'll be 14 point something, because next year we really want to do first of all, it's too close to what's going on now, and that's at high risk. But I will be more comfortable next year to do that. And this year to do a hybrid approach. There's small vignettes that we can have, invitation only, and maybe even tape, right? That we can show virtually, or some people can experience live, but you don't have to go full out, but because everyone's not comfortable. And it's just, it's too high of a risk. So we're gonna do a season starting in May up through December, but little things during a festival week, which is always the fourth weekend of July, we will have something. It's the fourth weekend of July. So it's the fourth weekend of July and the first weekend of August. We'll have things happening, some virtually, some maybe live, where people are actually there, but we're gonna ease our way back into it. And we also don't want to risk the quality of what we present. So we're not in a rush. You don't have to be in a rush, but we're just learning the ways of doing it. And I'm looking at all of the greats and everyone, the work that they're doing, they're perfecting it. It's getting great. I mean, even, when I saw Verse to Verse, when I saw the Isley Brothers and Earth, Wind, and Fire, I was like, this is the best one I've ever seen. They perfected it. It was so good. So I don't think, so when the 15th anniversary happens for Lincoln Park, there always will be a virtual something. We're not going to move away from that now, because last year we were able to connect with Jamaica. We had a group from London, from Sao Paulo, Brazil. We had them from Africa. We had artists from everywhere, whether they were doing poetry, whether they were singing, whether they were rapping. And it just made the world even smaller. So, and having a live performance, I can imagine with our Newark Coachella Coachella South by Southwest experience and having big screens up and someone's performing, and then you could see the screen pop, and then there's a performance happening from Sao Paulo, Brazil. And because technology is that good that you can do that now. So being able to grow into that space, that's what I'm excited about, So thank you. I really appreciate, I know you may have some questions, but I was trying to give you a high level overview on some of the things that we're working on. And a lot of people, they just know the Lincoln Park Music Festival, or they just know the House Music Day. But Lincoln Park is not just a festival. Lincoln Park is a movement. It's a movement in the city of Newark that our goal is to make sure that we use this tool to heal our community. When we think about housing, all these things make a healthy community. So once you finish dancing, you want to go to a house that's a nice place to live. You want to have fresh food. You want to be able to go to a coffee shop. That we should have the same things that everyone else have in their communities. So raising the bar and making sure that those things are accessible. So as calm as, most people see me as, I'm really a social justice person, community organizer, an activist. And my organization, and I got some of my teachings, but my organization was created or started with a few people, but one of them, the late Amiri Baraka. And so Amiri was an amazing spirit. And I learned a lot from him. But you don't realize that you're around greatness when you're around greatness all the time. And I say him because he was on our board. So I can go talk with him and everything. And realize this man was just so amazing. And so we've had the opportunity to be around amazing people like that in that whole social justice movement. And, look, Barack Obama started in social justice. He became the president. But it's about being able to have a connection to your community. So I was on, I did a podcast with a friend of mine. I must be getting old. I can't think of nobody's names. But anyway, we're talking about festivals. And if I had to tell anyone something when they're doing festivals or doing something like that, have a connection to the community. It should be purpose-driven and have a connection to the community some kind of way, or cause-focused. The music is going to be the music, and you're going to enjoy the music. But I think, and I'm not casting dispersions on anyone that's doing anything, it's just a suggestion. The connection you have to the community that you're programming in makes your program a stronger program. And so because now you have built advocates for you and people who believe in the work that you're doing.
I love that. Let's start from the beginning. Where were you born?
So I was born in Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah. And where were you raised?
Jersey, huh?
And where were you raised?
I was born and raised here in Newark, New Jersey. So I am a native Newarker. When I went to college, I moved away, but I was here I went to Newark Public Schools and stayed here until I went to college. I went to college in New Jersey for both undergrad and grad. I went to Stockton State College, which is called now Stockton University near Atlantic City, and in Pomona. And I went to Fairleigh Dickinson University in Rutherford, and also Teaneck. So actually, when I was at Stockton State College, how I got through school, I became a blackjack dealer. So I worked at the casinos. So I was a croupier. I did blackjack and craps. And not at that time I didn't do craps, but I was doing blackjack while going to school. So it was one of my first jobs. And it was kind of cool. You made all this money, and you go to school, come work on the weekends, in the summer work full time in the summer, got a new car, so it's big time at 18 and 19 years old, so that was kind of cool. Some of my friends liked the money so much that they continued working, and school became secondary, but it was I kept school, I was purpose driven. So I took the money, but I said, okay, well, I'm just gonna go on weekends. I don't want to be full time, and I want to go to school. And then they let me to get a fellowship to go to graduate school. And I went to graduate school to get an MBA in pharmaceutical studies. Not to be a pharmacist, but New Jersey is considered a medicine state with all of the pharmaceutical companies. So I went to do pharmaceutical marketing. And then after that, while I was there, they had a campus in England. And so instead of doing my thesis and writing this thesis here, blah, 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 they said, well, you can go abroad. I said, oh, really? So I went abroad to finish my thesis. My experience abroad, coupled with what I was focusing on, was the way I did my thesis. So I got a chance to live in London.
Talk about your time living in London and compare the London experience versus growing up in Newark.
That's a good question. So when I was in London, I stayed first in the Cotswolds, which is the countryside near where Stratford-upon-Avon, Shakespeare Country. I stayed in a castle. So it took Winston Churchill's Abbey, and I stayed in the Abbey. So I got pictures, stayed in the castle. My room was in the castle, and all of that and stuff. So then it was near Oxford University. So I did my time there, but when I had a chance, so I did the things that they needed us to do with them, because it was a group of us, right? I was the only Black person. But so my friend of mine, LaTanya, had studied abroad before. She connected me with this dude named Clive. So I wanted, and Serene and I remember the names, a whole bunch of people. So when that stint was up, they knew I was there, connected with them. So I stayed in Bridgeton. So then I went to Bridgeton, right? And that's when they had the club called The Fridge. And so, and it had Heaven that was in London. Heaven was in London. I think Heaven was a sister club to the Garage. And it had The Fridge, was this old movie theater, it was hot. And so, I was like into the clubs. And I remember Soul had just came out, and Loose Ends had just came out. So I went to Camden to check out that whole movement in Camden. So it was good for me, comparing it to where it was at. Black people are Black people, wherever you go, they're Black people. And so our culture is universal. And so we may have some differences in how we speak or some of our customs, but it's still a Black experience. So, but the interesting thing is that the person that I first stayed with was white. His name was Clive. I didn't know he was white. She didn't tell me he was going to be white. She just said Clive is a good guy. But because everyone has a British accent, you can't tell if someone's Black or white because of their British accent. So when I saw him, I was like, oh, okay. So, I had to make the best, but it turned out to be a fun. And they happened to be, when I was here, I used to go to Halloween parade in New York and Chelsea. I used to go to the gay parade and all that stuff. So, but, I was not marching or nothing like that in it, but, not that I wouldn't, but I wasn't. So I get there with Clive and them. They were big LGBT people, and they wanted to, you got to march with us in the parade, march to Kensington Park. And so I was like, shit, ain't nobody know me. So I want to march in this parade, right? I had the best of time. So in comparison, I think that those experiences in traveling gives you a different lens when you come back home to how you see the world, how you see your people, and how you program. So like I program from the bottom up, not from the top down, because I believe Ellis Marcellus Sr. said this: culture bubbles from the bottom to the top, not from the top to the bottom. It comes from the neighborhoods, it comes from the people. And I know that arts and culture gives a voice to the voiceless. So I haven't talked about my London experience in a long time. So I was poor to me as a student going over there. And I remember my mother had my suitcase packed with sardines, tuna fish, and all that stuff, but I didn't have to eat it then. The day before I was supposed to fly home, they were going on strike. So I had to go to the airport the day before and camp out in the airport. I was like, damn, thanks God for my mother. I had no money. I just had a way to get home. And I had all this food that I didn't eat in my suitcase. So I was able to have a little picnic. I was like, okay, I'm good, and I'm good. I ate the food, came home, but it was one of the best experiences. I went there and I hadn't gone back until maybe like 4 years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago. A friend of mine had a surprise, someone had a surprise birthday party for him in London and asked us to come over. Now, this time I have a little money. I could use an Uber and all of that. And experience was still amazing, but I saw it from a 20-year to 25-year span from when I went when I was younger to as a different person that is evolved. I still enjoyed it because I like the pace. London has a pace. It's this pace that's a New York pace that really worked for me. And the music is amazing. You know, from what I was listening to and, you know, the global sound and I love the Black people over there. I love all the people over there, but, you know, I just, that's my experience. So, you know, so when I came home and I started working, I didn't realize how these experiences were going to impact me because I didn't have a vehicle to use. I came back home and did what my family wanted to do. I was very corporate, became a pharmaceutical sales rep and did that. And as long as I could, it was too sterile for me. It was not my personality. I became sales rep of the year and all those things, but and my area was Passaic and Bergen County. So I was in the hood, you know, but they loved me because I knew how to work in that space, right? But I realized one time that I was not happy and I was making lots of money as a 26-year-old, but I was not happy. And I owned a house, you know, and had my family and everything, but I wasn't happy. So I told my family that was living in the house with me that I didn't have any kids, I wasn't married, but I had my grandparents, my mother, everybody, because they were kind of getting ill. So I bought a big enough house that everybody can, you know, make this work. That I was leaving and I'll be back. And I was going, leaving my job and I was moving down to New Orleans. And so I took my 401k and bought a Jeep Wrangler, drove cross country. My college roommates were down there because they had opened up a riverboat casino down in Baton Rouge and then in New Orleans at Lake Pontchartrain. I said, Scott, I need to come down there. I had visited and I said, I need to come down. I can't take it up here no more. I went down there, left everything, had a career that was, I'd probably be in a different place, but I don't know if I would be happy. You know what I'm saying? So I went down there and I worked on a riverboat casino. That's why I learned how to do craps. So I worked at 4 o'clock in the morning to 12 noon on the Mississippi River doing that. But then I got a job working for Mark Morial, the Mayor Mark Morial, and in an office called Arts Tourism Partnership. So I worked 4 o'clock in the morning, and then at 1 o'clock to 5 or 6 o'clock, I work in the Mayor's Office of Music, Arts, and Entertainment. And I had the opportunity to do 2 major things that really changed my life. I worked on the first Essence Music Festival, the 25th anniversary. And I worked with the people who brought the first Essence Music Festival to New Orleans. And I worked on the New Orleans Jazz Festival with some of the greats and learned all the aspects of what a festival really looks like from 2 different prisms, you know? And they made me volunteer coordinator for, I can't even think this white lady's name. They loved me and she made me a volunteer coordinator for all the volunteers. And I had all access badges to go to the Essence Music Fest, the super lounges and all that and stuff. You know, I had all my friends with me, having a great, everybody came down. And then I did New Orleans Jazz Fest, which was amazing. Understanding the fairgrounds, how you can have multiple stages and vendors and all that. So that stuck to me and also shaped my space on how I thought a festival should look like and the richness of the culture that you bring. You bring food and clothes and experiences. So that's where I got that from.
Explain to people what the Essence Festival is and explain to people what the New Orleans Jazz Festival is. Just break it down for people like we know, but the audience may not know.
So the Essence Music Festival was created in a time, it was their 25th anniversary of Essence magazine. and they wanted to really do it big. I think Oprah, everybody was engaged in this. Susan tell everybody, and they wanted to do New Orleans. Now, New Orleans in July is hot. I'm not talking about hot like good hot, hot like in heat hot. You could like when you're moving, I'm like, damn, my whole shirt is wet from sweating. You know what I'm saying? It's like so hot there. And so, but the market was great because nothing was happening there because no one wanted to be there. So they worked with the Mayor's Office of Tourism Arts and Entertainment. I remember Jackie Harris, who was head of music, and they worked with them to pull this festival off. Now, when the festival was a festival that was done in the Superdome, the same Superdome that you saw Katrina, where people were staying at, that was where the festival happened at, in that Superdome. And so they had the main stage, but the Superdome was so big, and they had quadrants, they had super lounges. So I can see Stevie Wonder on stage, but check out Angela Bofill over at the Super Lounge. So like a Blue Note kind of experience. And then they had workshops and vendors and all that kind of stuff. It was cool. So when they first came down there, they were price gouged by all of the vendors because, they were like, oh, everybody wants to make money. And then when the people, I guess, who produced Essence realized the value of what they brought there, the next year were able to renegotiate everything in the right way because their dollar and the economic impact that they were having on that city at that time was insurmountable. So that was my experience. Now, the New Orleans Jazz Festival happened on the fairgrounds. I think the only fairground that I know that's this way is in New York somewhere, there's fairgrounds, but these big fairgrounds. And so you pay one price, but I loved it. It was almost like the Taste of Chicago. You go in, you buy these tickets, you buy to get in, and you have this program. So I can see gospel on the stage, R&B on the stage, or whatever on a stage. And then I could walk around and taste different things. So these coupons give me a taste of this jambalaya. So it's a food and everything is like on the grass. You bring your chairs and you're chilling. And even though the stages are in these major tents, they're not necessarily competing because the way they have it scheduled, they're not like competing. The best concert that I saw there was George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic. Now that's the jazz festival. You think it's just jazz, but they had all kinds of music. But I saw George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic, and I remember they were on stage. The guys had on them diapers and all that stuff. But the guy who was playing the lead guitar played that guitar for 20 minutes. It sounds so good, it almost made you want to cry. If you ever heard music that could just move you so much, but that's the kind of experience you was getting there. People just was enjoying the range and care. But those are two different festivals, but New Orleans is a place of celebration. Even at funerals, they have the second line, the drummers playing, people play. It's just the way life. So that's all of that energy. I hope that explains this a little bit. The festival for New Orleans Jazz Festival happens for 2 weekends, normally in April going into May. And the Essence Music Festival was always the 4th of July weekend. And that happened to be our birthday. So, that was pretty cool. So, but it was those things that kind of, it's London. You go to a job, you don't think, I never connected these things, but you realize it as you get older and you sit back and you're like, oh, this is really, I kind of got this from that experience. I got this from experience. So experiences are very important and travel is very important. And I think that it's helped to really frame some of the things that I'm doing. And
that was perfect. So let's go back to your story. So you leave the house in Jersey. Your family says, what are you doing? You go down to New Orleans. You become part of these amazing festivals. And then what happens after New Orleans?
So my grandparents was getting sick. And I'm the only child, and they were getting sick, and my mother was up here. And even though I was having the time of my life, I was raised with my grandparents, so I felt a responsibility to come back home. So I came back home, and begrudgingly, I think I pronounced that right. I didn't really want to, but I know it was important. So I came back home, and then had to reconnect to Newark, right? So that was like a culture shock for me coming from New Orleans, coming back home. So what happened is that I came home and what did I do first? I know how I got home. So the person I was working for named Linwood Sloan, I said, Linwood, I'm ready to go home. I did this, I'm ready to go home, and my family getting sick. He said, well, you know, there's only 100 Black people in the world, right? Or 10 Black people in the world, 20, something like that. I said, no. I said, I'm gonna go home. He said, I'm gonna call Philip Thomas and Stephanie Hewley. They're opening up NJPAC. And I'm gonna call them and I'm gonna let them know you're coming back home and that they should consider working with you. So when I got back home, I first started by volunteering, working with Philip Thomas. He said, you gotta volunteer first. I'm like, okay, dude. So I volunteered with him, but I wanted to work with Stephanie. Stephanie, she's a bad sister. So Philip was great what he did, but I loved Philip, but Stephanie Hewley, bar none, was one of my best mentors. Stephanie Hewley created and started the National Black Arts Festival in Atlanta. And so I worked with her, and she took me under her wings, and I learned how to program in a performing arts center. I learned how to do residencies when you bring an artist into a community and have workshops with them and classes. I learned all those things. And she was big on the diaspora. So I worked with artists. We did something called the World Festival Artists so Newark is a microcosm of all these cultures, right? So the way that we programmed was that we did traditional program that happens there, but also highlighted the culture. So we highlighted Portugal, had a partnership with Portugal, right? But remember, you were the great navigators. You went and colonialized a whole bunch of people. So we ain't gonna just do Portugal, we're gonna go Mozambique, Cape Verde, Guinea-Bissau, so we went to all those places and brought artists in from there also, because that is the Portugal experience. Because you were the great navigators, you went there and colonialized them. So we brought all of those artists in, and also from Salvador Bahia, from Brazil, because Portugal colonialized Brazil. And so we brought the whole diaspora in. So by having that, we had music from all over as part of the festival. And then, so I came to work at NJPAC. When I left NJPAC, I volunteered for something in Newark at the time. It was called First Night Newark. And First Night is an experience it's an experience where you celebrate New Year's Eve and you have all these pop-up experiences at storefronts and untraditional places, but there's no alcohol involved. And so the family fun, you buy a little ticket and you go to these different places you can go to and see these programs. It's called First Night Newark. And when New Year's coming, you shoot fireworks. I did that. I worked for a legislator, Gail Cheney-Field Jenkins. It was her program. I was volunteering. I think I answered the phone one day and someone said, well, who is that to answer the phone? Phone etiquette 101, so I was very good. So I went up there and they were looking, so someone was leaving, they were looking to hire, and I ended up leaving and becoming a legislative aide for a legislator in the city of Newark. And so she allowed me to still celebrate tourism, arts and culture, health disparities. So I got that from working as a legislator. So then now I saw on the policy side, how do you impact communities from a legislative side, And so that's how I got to Lincoln Park, because I then entered into a class called Leadership Newark. They were training future leaders, and met my former founding director, Baye Wilson, and we became buddies. He was working on the Lincoln Park experience, but he was working for another organization, RPM. They saw the area in need of redevelopment. We had a big charrette planning session around this whole area. He came from a sustainable place. Him and Van Jones, they were on a board called BALLE, B-A-L-L-E, Building Alliances for Local Living Economies. So he took all of that, and we were working with him and created Lincoln Park Coast Cultural District. Lincoln Park, that's the name of the park, the coast, because from the 30s to the 50s, in that area, that's where all the jazz clubs were located at. So Mary Baraka coined it as the Coast Cultural District. And so after leaving, I was working on the project for a while. We did the National Hip Hop Political Convention here in 2000 with Russell Simmons. And then in 2006, when Cory Booker defeated Sharp James and also the whole slate, I didn't have a job. And so I, Bynum knew I didn't. So everybody was like, you need to hire him full-time at Lincoln Park, you know? So I went away for 3 weeks. I went, a 3-week vacation. I went to Costa Rica, Belize, and Panama. I did it 3 weeks straight. I just needed a break. It was a planned trip already, but I was afraid to take it. My sister said, go ahead and take it. You may not get 3 weeks off again. So I did that, and I came back. They hunted me down. I became deputy director at Lincoln Park in 2006. So from that time on, I've been at Lincoln Park through all the ebbs and the flows. Sometimes too many ebbs, you know, but you have to enjoy the flows, you know. And so now in Lincoln Park 2.0, which I talked about earlier, I'm at a space that the organization had flatlined and was just, you know, really went through its life cycle of almost closing down. And now we have a rebirth. So through some transitional leadership and things that we've been working on, kind of fine-tuned what the community really needs, and also looked at being able to build the second and that third leg, so that it could be a stable stool sitting on the ground, impacting the community. So that's where I'm at right now. And it's excited in my career because I'm in my mid-50s. I'm 55, I'll be 56 soon in July. And so as I look at my legacy and contributions that, you know, that we're making, you know, from Shelton Hayes and all the greats, people from this space, or all the great people who have been part of just what we're doing, I feel that I've made a contribution that will create a legacy for the next person. So now I'm doing succession leadership, trying to find the next person that you could pass it on, institutionalizing the festival in a way that it's a model that when I leave, someone else can step right in, because the SOPs, the standard operating procedures are put in place, how we operate, how we do contracts, everything we do is with a contract, you know, because we want it to be binding with everyone, whether if it's a volunteer, still it's like some sort of MOU or something, because it's important to have, I'm finding to have contracts. We just, we're at the last stages, but it's almost final. We have all our trademarks on our brand. Originally, I didn't think about the brand that way, but now when I saw all the people who were pirating our stuff and content, that it was important to get the trademarks. So that's the business of music. And so in doing that, we're able to now take it from being free, but also use our content and our trademarks to have earned income so that we can sustain ourselves. Now, whoever would have thought that the fun we just having a festival, now you can have some earned income by having your trademark T-shirts and your cups, and you maybe some of the recordings and things of that sort, you know, if you're live streaming. So that's the way that people are doing things now. And so we're trying to break into that experience and being coached and doing it gradually and being coached in that experience.
Oh, that's fantastic. I want to pivot a little bit and go into house music and chat about
Sure.
that for a minute, and then I want to wrap it up with the festival. Describe house music in one word.
Awesome.
Unpack that.
So house music for me is love. It's a feeling. You know, it's like, it's very spiritual. And so I'm a lyrics person. So I can deal with a little bit of just music, but I need to hear a lyric, because my indoctrination is the story is being told. And for me, as a maestro, if you're a DJ, right, and you're a maestro, you have your orchestration, you're doing it through the music. I listen to the lyrics and the story is being told, because you can reflect, you get something from it, and it's just an experiential space. So I said awesome because when you said first word, I had to think real fast, but house music is love to me. You know, it has a very special place in my heart, and it's my go-to. And, you know, really for us, now I'm a soulful house person with lyrics. I can listen to all kind of house, you know, to a certain degree, but I love soulful house. House for me, it started off like Teddy Pendergrass, and they sped it up a little bit, you know, beats per minute. I don't know all that kind of stuff, but you know, they sped it up, and you know, The Love I Lost, you know, and you know, Eddie Kendrick. So I like that kind of music, that real deep rooted R&B. So when you hear a house music singer singing, and she could sing from the gut, or he could sing from the gut, it's an appreciation because it also has like a gospel riff to it a lot of times. And that comes from the church. So, and also the drum also plays a role in our music. And that's the origins of our music from Africa, the drum. So I really love house music. And at the music festival, in 14 years, we've had no incidents, nothing. A self-governed experience because it's like a love fest. You would think that you have Woodstock. That was my Woodstock. All these house music festivals are Woodstock. It's where people come together. If you bump into me, I'm not trying to shoot you. Sorry, excuse me, didn't mean to. It's okay. You know, it's not a aggressive experience. You know, I'm not knocking anything about house music. It's more of coming there for joy, life, friendship, love, all that kind of stuff.
What is soulful house music?
Well, soulful house music for me is it's like kind of like a derivative of R&B. So a lot of times you'll hear soulful house, but it has that deep richness because its vocals are associated with soulful house to me. So it's the vocalist that carries the song. Now the DJ can mix it forever, but it's that vocalist that has that soulful R&B kind of sound, but it's house. And you can hear the richness in the notes and the voice and stuff. So now everything is synthesized and everything. But when we were going, I don't know how old you are, but when we were growing up, I used to love when I could hear the music. I can hear the synthesizers, I can hear the violins, I can hear all the instruments in my ear. Matter of fact, if I had to craft a DJ, I could probably tell you what next song would go good with the song that's coming off because I was listening from that beat and that sound. And so, but soulful house, particularly for me, is just, it has an R&B, a spin to it, or origins. And it's really, soulful house has vocalists. A lot of songs in soulful house deals with lyrics and vocalists. And I like to hear that. Now, I don't mind Afrobeat. I don't mind all those things. One of my favorite DJs, I like a lot of people, but I enjoyed Joe Claussell because I like his interpretation of the music. Danny Krivit has an interpretation of the music. I used to go once a month to his Sunday party, you know, because he has an interpretation of the music, different from Joe's. That's why they put Body and Soul together. And there's a host of, like, I like Nicky. Now I'm talking about old, I love the Nicky Siano, you know. I like the New Jacks also. There's I like in New Jersey, we have Beloved, we have Jihad, New York, you got a host of folks who are DJing, and everyone is in, but you can tell from their age shifts the way the sound of the music is going to sound because it's their indoctrination from their age and what they were exposed to, you know. And so, I mean, I can tell the difference anyway because I'm listening, you know. And so that's what it is for me.
What is Club 88?
Club 88 is a club in Newark, but for me, it's commercial, right? So that now we're going into commercial house. So like I am an underground house person, club person.
Explain that. What is underground?
So so commercial to me, so underground house is, so for me, underground is like those clubs. It's almost like membership only, you know, like it's like those clubs that's exclusive, off the beaten path, not in a commercial business district, in an unexpected, unconstructed place where people not a lot of fanfare. I mean, they have a great light show, but it has a great light show, great sound system, and typically great DJs. And it's an underground experience because the music typically is not music that's commercial that you hear on the radio. Typically, I'm not going to hear those songs on the radio. The Club 88 was an evolution of the Zanzibar, Shanique's, and all those places. But I think that it's more commercial. So I you know, why did I hear say this? Was it Danny Krivit or one of them, Jelly Bean Benitez? One of them were talking about music. So when you go to underground house, typically it has a gay experience to it, right? So the underground house, if they say if you could play for the kids, you could play for any group of people because they're most critical, but because they like the music to just have that rich, I won't say fierce, but it's just real. It has this experience in underground house. And also the people who go are a very eclectic group of folks that are going. They may come in costumes. They're not, some of them are coming in, they can't go into Club 88 looking like that because they're more like Leviticus, Club 88, that kind of experience. There's nothing wrong with it, but that was not my experience. I came, when you're going down the alleyway, you open it up. You know what, when I went to Costa Rica, Costa Rica, I was in Costa Rica and the old country, right? And not old country, old city. It was dilapidated. I was like, what the hell, where are we going, right? And we walked down the street, right? And I didn't want to get mugged or anything, walked down the street. Then all of a sudden, on this old ass building, there was this guy, they had just like these torches up and these guys in these tuxedos. And you walked in and they had it tricked out. It was a fabulous underground house club. And it was awesome. The sound system, but I would have never thought it's like a house, underground house is a different experience. You have to I'm trying to explain it, but it's really, you just know.
You just have to live it. Yeah.
It's a type of living. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the festival. What's your biggest challenge in putting on the festival? How do you find talent? And what advice would you give to people that want to do festivals?
So my biggest challenge with the festival is that each year I have to raise money, right? And so it costs to do it. Everything that you see, from the stage to the porta-johns to everything that's there, we're in a blank park, so we have to create an experience. It's raising the funds, one. The way we look as a group to select artists, and for all the genres, I try to have someone local, emerging, regional, and national and international all on the stage together. Having that combination don't normally happen. And so it's inspiring for emerging artists and also brings different audiences together. Some people are going to come see, for instance, I'm saying Patti LaBelle, but who's going to come see, and some people will come to see someone else, right? But when you bring all of them together on one thing, that means you have this eclectic group of folks coming together and also being exposed to different types of music and artists. My advice to anyone who is doing I think it should be purpose-driven. You should have a relationship with the municipality and with your legislators and know who they are and have them as advocates, because permits and things come up that could dismantle your program. So you want to have allies. That's one. Two, when you think about your programming back of the house, in front of the house, think about your brand, think about earned income opportunities. A lot of most festivals are free, but it still costs. So find ways, that you can, and people want to give, even if you have not necessarily passing the basket around, but text to give. Everybody give $1. If you got 10,000 people, now you got $10,000, or at least a percentage of that. Find different ways to keep it to be sustainable, and also strategic alliances. And it's okay to work with other festivals and partner, because we're all in the same game together. And so it's not them against us against them. It's about we all are trying to lift up our people through the medium of music.
That's awesome. Those are the questions that I have. Anything else that I didn't ask you wanted to cover?
I will say this to you. So you were asking a question about executive director of Lincoln Park Coast Cultural District. That was not my aspiration to be the executive director of Lincoln Park Coast Cultural District. It morphed into that. But I was happy in my role as director of community affairs or that because as they say, heavy is he who wears the crown. Too much is given, much is required. When I'm not a title person, but I realize when you're at the helm, there's a sense of responsibility that you have for others. And you have to want to really step into that and understand the sacrifices you have to make when you're in those roles and who is looking at you for your commitment that you have. So like I'm an executive director of Lincoln Park, but the whole community looks at me. Like I'm the one, or Anthony, I'm like, we don't have a magic wand, but that's what happens. It's the social capital that you build up in your community, but it's a lot of work, so you have to believe in, don't mind getting dirty and also knowing that it's rewarding because you're changing people's lives. And that's what we're here for. We're here to pass it forward and help someone we can, but, to have an enriching life, when they, when it's all said and done, could you say that, that was a good journey right there. That was fine, but executive director titles are what they are, but understand that when you go into titles, there's a responsibility and you have to have the willingness for the sacrifices you have to take in order to move your mission and vision forward.
Thank you so much for the fantastic interview. All right.
Okay, brother. Have a great day.
Have a great day. All right, peace.
All right.